I call on government orders of the day, numbers 1 to 5.
Support for Children and Hardship Bill, committee stage continued. Taxation, annual rates for 2015-16, Research and Development and Remedial Matters Bill, committee stage continued. Radio New Zealand Amendment Bill, committee stage continued. Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Amendment Bill, committee stage continued. Radiation Safety Bill, committee stage.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Support for Children and Hardship Bill, the Taxation Annual Rates for 2015-16, Research and Development and Remedial Matters Bill, the Radio New Zealand Amendment Bill, the Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Amendment Bill, and for consideration of the Radiation Safety Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker. The House in committee for further consideration of the Support for Children and Hardship Bill, the Taxation Annual Rates for 2015-16 Research and Development and Remedial Matters Bill, the Radio New Zealand Amendment Bill, the Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Amendment Bill, and for consideration of the Radiation Safety Bill. Members, we turn first to the Support for Children and Hardship Bill. When we were last considering this bill, we were debating Part 1. Poto Williams had the call and she has 53 seconds remaining.
Mr. Chairman.
Poto Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we were last debating this bill, I was speaking, I believe, on Part 1, Clauses 4, 1A and B, particularly around the definition of part-time work. This bill seeks to change the definition from what is currently standard around 15 hours a week to that of 20 hours a week. And I want to refer the Committee of the Whole House to some submissions that were made regarding those particular changes, particularly with regard to the CTU submission. They have some very clear views about the changes from 15 to 20 hours, and I just want to quote that single mothers in particular face a range of economic penalties as well as social difficulties. They are more likely to find only unpredictable part-time work, making it harder for them to access childcare and other support they need. Mr. Chairman?
Poto Williams.
Thank you. And other support that they need in order for their work to be feasible. They make a really valid point that other submitters spoke to, Mr. Chairman, and that is about the precarious nature of part-time work for some of these mothers who are forced to also look for work that will satisfy the 20-hour definition. That often means transport to and from, and I know that this bill does make some provisions around providing some support for that, limited though it is, but that also requires the potentially mothers to be working during standard working hours, which would be during the day. That doesn't take into account that many part-time jobs might occur in the evening, which would require childcare services which aren't currently delivered as a norm in this country. It's not easy to access childcare outside of the normal hours, after hours, in the evening or overnight, where there may be jobs, for example, in the retail sector, stacking shelves at supermarkets or working at services that operate overnight. That might be gas stations or the like. We are talking generally, Mr. Chairman, about a group of workers who have limited skills, and are not generally able to access work that would provide them with enough resources to attend to that childcare. Mr. Chairman, also I want to talk about clauses 4, parts 2 and 3, which change the change the age at which your youngest child should be before you are then required to seek work, from the age of 5, which we all know is the age where most children will be attending school, to the age of 3. Now that does apply some pressure to parents to actually find that childcare work. And now I just want to also go back to the CTU submission and just talk about what they say about this. They state that this bill requires solo parents and their partners of beneficiaries to be available for part-time work once the youngest child turns 3 rather than 5. And the CTU didn't support these provisions in the bill because they impose stronger work testing, which will heavily impact on sole parents. The stricter work testing obligations and sanctions regime will cause hardship and deprivation to an already disadvantaged people and force sole parents into work when they and their children are not ready for it. Now, we couldn't find any evidence. There was no evidence that was brought to the committee that could really rationalise dropping the age from 5 to 3. Not even the Children's Commissioner could provide sufficient evidence to that fact. In fact, the Children's Commissioner said that the basis with which the change should be made was really around the fact that on average, when parents return to the workplace, their youngest child is 3. Now we're talking on average all parents, and those will be parents who have got resources to support them to stay at home for longer, or maybe in jobs, in different types of jobs. But we on the committee and the Labour Party members of the committee felt that that wasn't sufficient justification to require parents to return to work when the youngest was aged 3. It just didn't give us sufficient comfort that there was good evidence that that should happen. Now, just in relation to that as well, the National Council of Women also raised the point that childcare would need to be available for shift workers and weekend workers, as well as being available during standard working week. Now, that is also required for these children who are aged from 3. When you're aged at 5, I guess your development is you're far more developmentally advanced. When you're at age 3, you're a particularly vulnerable, still in a particularly vulnerable age group. So we were unconvinced by those aspects of this particular, of the evidence that was given. And as I said earlier, we could find no justification, no evidence was provided to the committee that could make us feel comfortable that dropping the age was actually in the best interest of the children. Mr. Chair.
I call the Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr. Chair, I thought